Gardens Hospital, dedicated to you.
Elections are just around the corner, but will the election be held this time? Professionals are out on the street against the increase in taxes. Good evening and welcome. This is Primetime News on TV1. We've got the details of these stories and much more lined up for you here tonight. Let's start off with a look at your top stories first.
President chairs all-party conference. SJB, NPP and several other parties boycott the conference. Taxes are unjust. Bank employees across the country protest. Doctors report to work with black armbands. University lecturers take to the streets. Poor trade unions warn of strike if taxes are not revised. Elections Commission chairman says election will go ahead as planned. Power cuts continue. HRCSL agreement breached. China's Exim Bank grants Sri Lanka 2-year moratorium on loan repayment. India celebrates 74th Republic Day.
Now taking a look at those stories in detail. An all-party conference was held at 4 this evening under the chairmanship of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The meeting was attended by members of the ruling party as well as several members of the opposition.
The leaders of all political parties representing the parliament were invited to participate at the meeting. According to the President's media division, the program to speed up reconciliation was to be taken up for discussion. When Newsfirst inquired, the Samagi Jana Balawegaya said that they did not attend the conference. However, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna attended the meeting. TNA leader R. Sampanthan said that his party had attended the meeting. However, Plot and Tello, which are parties affiliated with the TNA, did not attend the meeting. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party General Secretary Dayasiri Jayasekara said they will not participate in the meeting. The Freedom People's Congress and the Uttara Lanka Sabagaya also did not attend the meeting. The National People's Power said that they too will not attend the all-party conference.
Since the 13th Amendment is part of the law of Sri Lanka, the executive is vested with the responsibility of enforcing it. He said that therefore it will be done. Also, he explained to us how the land will be released. We're of the stance that although it was promised that this will be resolved before the 4th of February, that has not happened yet. That is what we said. I said that the 13th Amendment must not be fully implemented. All former presidents including J.R. Jayawardena, Premadasa Chandrika, Mahinda Rajapaksa, Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Maithripala Sirisena did not fully implement the 13th Amendment to the Constitution because there's a risk that the move could divide the country.
ප්‍රවණතාවයක් තියෙන නිසා.
රට භූගෝලීය වශයෙන්වත් ජාතීන් වශයෙන් ආගම්
We discussed how we can strengthen reconciliation and work in a manner that the country will not be divided at the all-party conference. All parties expressed their views. Implementation of the 13th Amendment, how it should be done, where we should be cautious. Everyone expressed their views on these matters.
ඉදිරිපත් කළා.
The Court of Appeal issued an interim order to suspend the application of the newly introduced payee tax on the monthly salary of judges who earn more than 100,000 rupees. The Court of Appeal in their order directed the Inland Revenue Department to suspend the application of the said payee tax on the salaries of judges until further notice. The interim order was issued after a writ petition filed by the Judicial Service Association of Sri Lanka was taken up for consideration today. The petition was called up before a bench comprising of Court of Appeal Justices Sobhita Rajakaruna and Dhammika Ganepola. When inquired on the matter, the Minister of Justice Vijayadasa Rajapaksa said that he had received the interim order regarding the salaries and allowances of judges.
A number of sectors are currently protesting, demanding the immediate revision of the largest income tax ever imposed on monthly salaries and allowances. The Association of Professional Bankers protested opposite the central bank this afternoon. Although they're prepared to pay taxes, they say that the new income scheme is being unfairly levied. They say the situation has made it difficult to afford even the basic living expenses. 7 central bank trade unions joined the protest.
Last month, it has now increased by 6 to 7 times. This situation is unbearable. This is a very unfair tax. It is the professionals that make all the sacrifices in this country. The rulers increase their ministries. There is no justification for raising taxes for professionals while they preserve their own welfare. We hope to take strong actions in this regard in the future.
Later, the group attempted to march towards the Ministry of Finance. Later, the group marched towards the presidential palace. Later, the group returned to the central bank. While that protest took place at the central bank, several protests were organized across the country by the Ceylon Bank Employees Union. Bank employees from both private and public sectors took part in the protest. One of the protests were held along the bank of Ceylon Road in Fort.
We are not asking the government not to levy taxes. We are asking for taxes to be fair. Within the next few days, we will stop all work at private and public institutions across the country, take to the streets and demand the government to amend this unfair decision and bring the taxes down to a reasonable level. If the government cannot understand that as well, we will go on strike and work towards winning this Aragalaya. The Ceylon Bank Employees Union will lead this struggle from the fore. We are giving that assurance from opposite the head office of the Bank of Ceylon.
Another protest organized by the Ceylon Bank Employees Union was staged opposite the People's Bank head office this afternoon.
Many people had their salary slashed yesterday. The money that they were left for their expenses has been slashed. A majority of these employees are facing a risk of being thrown out on the streets.
Employees of private banks had also joined the protest staged along the Dali Road in Colombo. Bank employees also staged a protest in Gampaha demanding for the unfair tax regime to be amended. The Ceylon Bank Employees Union staged a protest in Kandy today.
Top officials in the country are leaving the country because of these taxes. If the banking system in the country collapses, that will deal a deadly blow to the economy of the country. We propose for these tax rates to be reduced between 6% and 24%. We propose that the amount of income exempted from the tax to be increased to 200,000 rupees. Although we have submitted these proposals to the government, no one is listening to us.
Private and government bank employees protested together opposite the clock tower in Kurunegala.
The people don't have medicine. The government is imposing taxes and increasing the number of ministers. They get fuel. Their staff gets fuel. Where do we go? Within 1 to 2 months, they will start saying that taxing 100,000 rupees of income is insufficient and we need to tax income of people who earn 45,000 rupees. They will say that the IMF told them to impose a tax. A few months ago, electricity tariffs were increased by 100%. 2 months later, they are saying that the increase is not enough. Electricity tariffs have increased by 500% now. This is a country that has taxed us for 75 years but cannot provide power for 24 hours.
University lecturers staged a protest against what they call an unjust tax policy. They question as to how they can continue their day-to-day lives, taking into consideration the taxes imposed on their salaries and allowances. The Federation of University Teachers Association of the University of Performing Arts staged a protest opposite the university premises today.
The government has decided to impose an unfair tax policy which affects the people. The professionals are worst affected by this. The question is, what power does the government without a mandate have to impose such taxes? I don't think the people of this country have given this government any right to take such decisions. The government is currently in a transitional phase. We are saying that an election is coming. Allow the people to elect a government that they want. The election is an opportunity to elect a government that implements a people-friendly tax policy. People can move forward according to the government they appoint. As professionals, we are ready for it. If not, we express our strong opposition against a corrupt government that is looting people's salaries in this illegal manner. We must make it clear that this tax policy has once again pushed this country into the streets and into a bigger and much more complex social crisis.
The Peradeniya University Teachers Association marched from the university premises to the Galaha Junction and staged a protest.
We are not the ones who dragged this country into this situation. These politicians have taken loans and misused them, and that is why we are facing this situation today. We staged this protest demanding a stop to collecting tax money from professionals in order to recover losses. When we conducted a survey, we found that 26% of our professors were ready to leave the country. Another 50% said that they are looking forward to leaving this year. If the majority of professionals such as professors, doctors and engineers leave, what will happen? This country will collapse.
Meanwhile, the port employees are also severely inconvenienced by the tax imposed on their salaries and allowances. The port trade unions, which participated in a joint press conference, emphasize that this decision should be changed immediately.
Everyone from the labourer to the doctor is affected by this tax. Once the taxes are deduced, they are left with less than 5 cents to take home. We will only give you a few more days. After this Black Protest Week, our next move will be more serious. We have no way to survive. We cannot bear this. Revoke this immediately. The port employees contribute around 10 to 14 million rupees to this country daily. Do not try to stop that from happening. We say with great responsibility, we need a solution right now. Let's do a review. We agree. We are not saying to slash 100% of these taxes. Let's stop this bill immediately and review it again. After reviewing it with the trade unions, we will come to a common consensus, but we have to question whether it is appropriate to implement such a tax bill at this moment. Employees have suffered a serious collapse. Now they are coming to the media and saying that this should be reconsidered. Some of them are saying that this tax is too much in Parliament. What a joke. Please review this tax policy. We are ready to step out as the ports authority.
The GMOA points out that the government has failed to provide essential medicines even with the implementation of an unfair tax policy. Today, the GMOA lodged a complaint with the World Health Organization's office in Sri Lanka regarding the medicine shortage and the negligence displayed by the authorities.
It's clear to us that the country is heading towards anarchy. We are heading towards a point where we will be unable to declare a timeline on when the problem will be resolved. We don't know if this will be solved today, tomorrow, in a few months, or at the end of the year. As the GMOA, we understand that this problem cannot be solved through discussions. The people of the country are suffering due to the medicine shortage, so we decided to take this problem to the World Health Organization in order to look for a solution.
While the health crisis continues, food production is also facing a severe setback. Paddy farmers who lost most of their crop during the past 3 seasons as a result of an ad hoc fertilizer ban are now in a tough fight to protect their harvest this season due to yellowing of crops. This disease has spread to almost all parts of the country. In a report, the Department of Agriculture points out several causes for the spread of this disease. These include phosphorus deficiency, potassium deficiency, both potassium and phosphorus deficiency, root system damage by nematodes, brown moth infestation, paddy salinity and iron poisoning. However, the Department of Agriculture is of the opinion that most of the paddy lands have turned yellow due to nutritional deficiencies. They point out that the lack of MOP or Bundy fertilizer to the paddy fields has led to this situation. The department says that by the 24th of this month, only 10% of the total amount of Bundy fertilizer has been sold. The farmers point out that the price of Bundy fertilizer is very high in the market. As a result, they are not able to buy it. Farmers point out that although the government has announced that they will provide financial relief for the purchase of fertilizer, the money has not been received so far. 254 farming families of Min area Bedumala depend on farming, and it's been 60 days since they began their cultivation.
We've spent months on this cultivation. If we wait for the money to buy fertilizer, our crops won't get any nutrition. There's no point of the money being in the bank if we weren't able to use it.
This is the current state of the paddy lands in Thamarankulam in Putlam. The citizens' movement against bribery, corruption and waste arrived at the Ministry of Public Administration, provincial councils and local government today to seek information on expenses for Independence Day celebrations, which are reportedly going to cost around 200 million rupees. They made this request under the Right to Information Act.
This is not being done with any love for this country. This is about Ranil Wickramasinghe's pride. He has devised a method to spend 200 million and steal from the water bottles and rice packets purchased. Ranil Wickramasinghe has no right to do so when these innocent people are dying without food or water. The country is bankrupt today thanks to unwise expenses and wastage of funds based on the wrong system. That is why the officials of these institutions are being told how to spend the money as soon as possible. So please give them to the relevant ministry secretaries.
We'll be back with more news after this short commercial break. Stay tuned.
News First, main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you. Experience the best in healthcare at Darden's Hospital's new Alfred Place wing. We continue to evolve into a purpose-built hospital of the future, with an ambience built to deliver world-class care. Darden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Welcome back to the news. Chairman of the National Election Commission, Attorney Nimal Punjiheva, said that PMS Charles, a member of the Election Commission, has not yet tendered her official resignation. The chairman also refuted rumors being spread that he himself is planning on submitting his resignation from his position at the National Elections Commission.
The Election Commission consists of 5 members. Attorney Nimal Punjiheva is the chairman. The other members are M.M. Mohammed, PSM Charles, PP Patirana and SB Divaratna. There were reports claiming that member of the commission, PCM Charles, had resigned today. In response to this, the chairman of the National Election Commission, Nimal Punjiheva, said that the resignation of a member of the commission does not hinder the local government elections. But he added that he has not been officially notified in this regard. The chairman of the commission rejected rumours being spread regarding his resignation and added that spending time on responding to such rumours is pointless. Punjiheva also stated that the National Election Commission is preparing the necessary arrangements for holding the local government elections. Meanwhile, election monitoring organizations participated in discussion with the commission today.
We have the ability to hold the elections on the 9th of March as planned. The chairman of the National Elections Commission also confirmed that none of the members, including himself, will resign from their positions. We would like the candidates not to be in doubt. Go ahead with your election campaigns. The judicial process is the only challenge ahead for us.
තාමත් අපි දන්නේ නැහැ ඇය ඇත්තටම ඉල්ලා අසුනාද කියලා. එහෙම ඉල්ලා අසලා තිබෙනවා නම් බරපතල විදිහේ වගකීම් විරහිත ක්‍රියාවක් හැටියට අපි දකින්නේ. දැනටමත් සමාජිකයන් හතර.
We don't know if she has resigned yet. If she has resigned in this manner, we see it as a serious and irresponsible act. As of now, there are 4 members, so there is no obstacle. As an election observer, I say with great responsibility that the remaining 4 members, led by the chairman, will work to end the election very successfully. As election observers, we are confident that the 4 of them will not leave the Elections Commission under any circumstance.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa commented on the pressure being placed on the Election Commission.
Remember that it is a punishable offence to act against the people's sovereignty and the people's right to vote as per the country's constitution. A media operation has been going on since last night saying one of the members of the Election Commission has resigned. Some said that the chairman has resigned. It's clear that a great conspiracy to disrupt this election process is in operation.
ඊළඟ ව්‍යවස්ථාදායක සභා රැස්වීම ඊළඟ සඳුදා දිනේ පැවැත්වෙන තෙක්. The opposition leader made these remarks while meeting a group of unemployed graduates at the opposition leader's office.
Political parties and civil organizations organized a conference on the election expenditure bill, which was recently passed in Parliament. The event was held in Colombo earlier today.
The event was organized by the Centre for Monitoring Election Violence, the Centre for Policy Alternatives and the Free Press Movement. The CEO of the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, Anthony Banbury, speaking at the event, explained why some will fight against good campaign financing legislation.
Vested interests who like a system the way it is because it gives them an unfair advantage in the electoral environment in countries around the world will fight to resist good campaign finance legislation. We see it in countries around the world. And this effort will never be finished. It will be constant, both in legislative reform, procedural reform, and implementation. Money is in politics. Money is in elections. That's inevitable. And in a way, it's important. Political candidates, parties need resources in order to get their message out to the voters. So it's never a question of removing money from politics. It's trying to give society tools and information they need to understand the role of money in politics and to hold those who are using money in politics accountable for the legal use of money, and no matter how they use it, hold them accountable at the ballot box through the vote.
Minister of Justice Vijayadasa Rajapaksa also spoke at the event.
This bill does not make any provisions related to the conduct of the elections. This is merely to cast the obligation on the part of all the political parties, independent groups and candidates to make their declarations as to how much that they have spent for the election. Candidates and parties can spend their money, but within the limit. If parties and candidates have exceeded their limits, it's a violation of the law. Then within 10 days after the conclusion of the election, within 21 days after the conclusion of the election, they'll have to give in affidavit form as to how much that they have spent and as to how that they got that money, whether the money was borrowed or donations, contribution, their own money, the nature of the money that they have got, and the mode of expenditure has to be explained in an affidavit form. Within 21 days that has to be presented to the Election Commission. The Commission is bound to publish within 10 days after the 21 days period that such and such candidates and parties have given their list of that expenses.
Deputy Executive Director of Transparency International Sri Lanka, Sangeeta Gunratna, says there has been a renewed interest in politics in Sri Lanka.
Now we know post the recent Aragalaya in Sri Lanka, the protest, the citizen protest that happened in Sri Lanka, there has been a renewed interest in politics, and we know there are several people who are trying to run as independent groups or candidates for the local government elections. But if you pitch those new entrants into politics, women, underrepresented groups, against established politicians who have access and connections to people who have access to the big money, who are willing to spend that, is that really a representative system that we end up with? Do we end up with a representative democracy? Do we end up with a representative polity?
Others present at the event included Election Commissioner General Samansri Ratnayaka and former Chairman of the Election Commission and Chairman of the National Delimitation Committee, Mahinda Deshapriya.
The Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka says that if power cuts continue to be implemented in violation of the agreement entered into between the Commission, the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka and the Ceylon Electricity Board, the matter will be taken to the Supreme Court on charges of contempt. The Commission issued a statement in this regard after taking into consideration reports that power cuts are still being experienced across parts of the country.
A power cut was reported between 4 and 5 p.m. in Ganemulla.
අරන් කපන්න නැහැ කියනවා කපනවා මේක මොකක්ද කියලා අපිට හිතා ගන්න. නැත්නම් තේරුම ළමයි ඉගෙන ගන්නත් නැහැ. උගාගොල්ලෝ ලියන්නත් පාඩම් කරගන්න කිව්වොත් නැහැ. ඒගොල්ලෝ එකක් කියනවා අරගොල්ලෝ එකක් කියනවා රට නිකන් දෙගොල්ලෝ පාවිච්චි කරනවා වගේ. කපන්න නැහැ කියලා තමයි කිව්වේ. ඒනට මේ කපනවා. ඒ හරි අසන්නයි මේ වෙලාවේ. අපේ ස්වයං රැකියාව. අපිට ගන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ. කපන්න නැහැ කියලා අපේ අම්මගේ දරුවා ඒව කරනවා. කොහොමද? නෑනේ.
Meanwhile, the Ceylon Electricity Board said that no power cuts will be imposed during the period of the advanced level examination. The CB announced that there will be further discussions regarding the power cuts at night, and the power cuts will be imposed today as well. The Public Utilities Commission has forwarded a letter to the chairman of the Human Rights Commission informing them that the Commission will not approve of power cuts between January 26th and February 17. According to the agreement issued as a directive by the Human Rights Commission, the CEB has been instructed to maintain an uninterrupted supply of power during this period of time. The Human Rights Commission emphasized that if the CEB does not act according to the directive, the HRCSL has the ability to act according to Section 21 of the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission Act No. 21 of 1996.
A group including former MP of Samagi Janapalavagia, Hirunika Premchandra, complained to the Human Rights Commission today, alleging that the power cuts are still taking place. Even today, there were power outages in several areas during the day. The decision was reached last afternoon, and despite that, the power was interrupted last night. Why have a commission if the recommendations of the chairperson of that commission are not being implemented properly? Tomorrow, we will file a petition against Ranil Wickramasinghe for violating human rights.
Fort Magistrate Thilina Gamage today ordered the release of media spokesperson of the Samagi Trade Unions Collective, Ananda Palita, and chairman of the Electricity Consumers Association, Sanjeeva Dhammika, on 2 personal bails of 500,000 rupees each. They were released in connection with the case filed against 2 members of the Public Utilities Commission, Mohan Samaranayaka and Udeni Wickramasinghe, under the charges of criminal coercion and intimidation. Sanjeeva Dhammika, who is named as the third suspect in the case, was identified by Mohan Samaranayaka, who is named a witness in the case during an identification parade that was held in the presence of Colombo Additional Magistrate Kingsley Hettiarachchi today. Thereafter, the magistrate ordered the police to conduct further investigations into the matter and to direct investigation files to the court on the 27th of April.
We will not stop this struggle. This is a problem with the Act. We civil organisation leaders, we will continue to work to protect the legality of the Act.
Journalists raised questions regarding the electricity tariff.
The media keeps saying that a decision has been reached to not increase the electricity tariffs. No such decision was made. We have not decided to increase it either. This is a decision that has to be taken according to the system.
The Court of Appeal today issued an order annulling the decision taken by former Minister of Health Pavitra Vanniyarachchi to remove the chairman of the Sri Lanka Medical Council, Professor Harendra Silva, and 4 other members of the council from their positions. The former minister had removed them from office on the 27th of November 2020.
The order was issued after 2 petitions filed by Professor Harendra Silva, Sunil Ratnapriya, U.A. Gunasekara, Narada Dikagamini, Pushpika Darshana and Sunil Dharmapriya were considered. The petitions were taken up before Justices Mohammed Nattar and S.U.B. Karaliatta. The Court of Appeal also issued an order barring the individuals appointed to replace the petitioners in their respective positions, including Professor Vajira Disanayaka, Professor Bandula Vijayawardena, Dilrukshiru Beru and Vajira Senaratna from continuing to function in their positions at the Sri Lanka Medical Council. The Court of Appeal in their order stated that the Minister of Health, Pavitra Vanniyarachchi's decision to remove the petitioners from their positions at the Sri Lanka Medical Council was contrary to rules of natural justice and an arbitrary exercise of her powers and therefore illegal.
China's Foreign Ministry said the Export-Import Bank of China, or the Exim Bank, has provided Sri Lanka with a debt extension. This is according to a report by the Reuters news agency.
According to a letter reviewed by Reuters, Exim has offered Sri Lanka a 2-year moratorium on its debt and said it would support the country's efforts to secure a $2.9 billion loan from the International Monetary Fund. In comments to Reuters, China's Foreign Ministry said, quote, China feels for Sri Lanka as it faces difficulties and challenges and has been helping with Sri Lanka's socio-economic development as best as we can, end quote. India wrote to the IMF earlier this month saying it would commit to supporting Sri Lanka with financial and debt relief. Sri Lanka also needs the backing of China in order to reach a final agreement with the IMF.
Dutch ambassador to Sri Lanka says that she is hopeful that the problems faced by the people of Mannar can be resolved. She made these remarks during her visit to Mannar today.
Dutch Ambassador Bonnie Hobach met with the District Secretariat, Stanley de Mel, during her visit to Mannar. The two engaged in discussions regarding the need to promote the Mannar Fort as a tourist destination.
I'm very thankful that I could make it to Mannar, and I definitely want to come back because it's a beautiful island. I came here to listen what the issues are that people are facing, and also to experience a little bit life in Sri Lanka outside the Colombo bubble. And I have to say that I'm very impressed with what the government is doing here and how they are trying to make life better for the people of Mannar. Still quite a lot of challenges, but very hopeful that those can be resolved. We also visited the fort, which of course is a little bit of my heritage as well, and I see what people are doing to restore it, and it's very beautiful. I hope a lot of tourists will come to look at the fort, but also at the beautiful nature and bird life.
The ambassador also emphasized the need to ensure proper maintenance of cultural sites such as the fort and credited the people of Mannar in their acts to restore and maintain it.
The need to improve Tertiary education in Sri Lanka was discussed during a panel discussion that focused on non-state actors in Sri Lanka's education sector.
The panel discussion titled Non-State Actors in Sri Lanka's Education Sector, organised by the Institute of Policy Studies of Sri Lanka in collaboration with UNESCO Global Monitoring Report, was held in Colombo on Tuesday. The panel discussion was held with the participation of experts including Director of IPS Dr. Disha Aruntilaka, Chairman of the National Education Commission Professor Harishchandra Abegunawardena, Chairman of Gateway Group Dr. Harsha Alas, Director Policy Planning of the Ministry of Higher Education and Highways Dr. Madhura M. Vahella participated in the event. Speaking at the event, Chairman of the National Education Commission Professor Harishchandra Abegunawardena emphasized the need to improve tertiary education.
There is a big gap. We need to improve the access to lower levels of education as well as tertiary education. With the economic constraints faced by the country, it is very unlikely the country can afford to provide access to education, lower level as well as tertiary level by the state. So in that regard, the vacuum has to be filled by the private sector.
Chairman of the Gateway Group Dr. Harsha Alas also spoke at the panel discussion.
I think it's important to work out the cost per student and publish these figures, because I am very confident some of our costs or some of the kind of fees that we charge in some of our schools and higher education institutions will certainly be lower than what the student who enters the state sector would spend, provided all the costs are taken into consideration.
An introduction to the Global Education Monitoring Report took place during the event.
India celebrated her 74th Republic Day today with a colourful parade displaying military might and cultural diversity.
In New Delhi, armed forces personnel march along the Kartavya path in an elaborate display of military might. The celebrations, inaugurated with a grand parade, are held in the capital. The parade was kicked off in Delhi by the guest contingent of the Egyptian armed forces, followed by a show of strength by the armed forces. Only made-in-India weapons were on display at the parade this year. Indigenous 105mm Indian field guns offered the 21-gun salute to President Murmu. In another first, the parade witnessed a contingent of women armed police battalion of CRPF. This was also the first time an Egyptian president had been invited to be the chief guest of the event. Earlier, Indian Prime Minister Modi paid tributes to martyrs at the National War Memorial. Extending his greetings to the nation on the 74th Republic Day, Prime Minister Modi earlier said, quote, "We wish to move ahead unitedly to make the dreams of the great freedom fighters of our country come true." End quote.
The national movement led by Mahatma Gandhi was as much about winning independence as about rediscovering our own ideals. The world has started to look at India with a new sense of respect. This year, as you know, India holds the presidency of the group of 20 nations. With our motto of universal brotherhood, we stand for peace and prosperity of all. Thus, the G20 presidency is an opportunity to promote democracy and multilateralism and the right forum for shaping a better world and a better future.
That's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. Until we meet again, take care and God bless.